Subscribe to the channel right now if you care about preserving the real, unpolished survival knowledge of the Second World War, because what we're covering today is rarely taught, rarely documented correctly, and almost never explained in practical terms. This channel exists to keep hard-earned historical knowledge alive, and if that matters to you, subscribing and sharing is part of the mission. For the next minute, I want you to reset how you think about warmth in wartime. Most people assume heat comes from fire, fuel, or equipment. During World War II, millions of soldiers, prisoners, resistance fighters, and civilians didn't have any of those. They survived winters in forests, ruins, submarines, and frozen camps using physics, biology, and ruthless efficiency. These weren't comfort tricks. These were methods that kept bodies alive when exposure killed faster than hunger or bullets. What makes these techniques so valuable today is that they rely on principles that modern technology still hasn't replaced. No batteries, no fuel, no gear lists. Just methods that work because the human body and environment haven't changed since 1945. Now, let's get into the methods, not the myths. Body heat management was treated as a system, not a comfort issue. World War II survival manuals and field experience treated heat as something to be conserved, redirected, and multiplied, not created. Soldiers learned quickly that producing heat was dangerous, but retaining it was controllable. Clothing was never worn loosely in extreme cold. Layers were compressed deliberately because trapped air pockets provided insulation. In ruined cities and forests, soldiers slept shoulder to shoulder not for morale, but because shared body heat created a measurable temperature rise inside enclosed spaces. This wasn't optional. It was calculated survival. You can apply this today by thinking in systems. If you're cold indoors without power, seal the smallest livable space, layer clothing tightly rather than loosely, and share heat sources such as people or even warm water containers placed under insulation. World War II experience proved that reducing heat loss mattered more than generating heat. Earth itself became a silent heater. One of the most effective forgotten techniques was ground coupling. You see, Earth temperature remains more stable than air temperature, especially in winter. Soldiers dug shallow sleeping trenches, foxholes, or wall-adjacent pits, not just for protection, but to escape wind-driven heat loss. In forests and frozen plains, like those surrounding the Battle of Stalingrad, German and Soviet troops learned that even frozen ground radiated less heat away than open air. Today, this principle still works. Sleeping or resting lower than surrounding air, against earth or stone, reduces convective heat loss. Even indoors, sitting or sleeping on insulated flooring rather than elevated furniture during cold outages can noticeably improve warmth. Clothing moisture control mattered more than thickness. One of the deadliest cold weather mistakes WWII troops learned to avoid was sweating. Sweat killed faster than thin clothing. Soldiers were trained to open jackets while moving and close them immediately when stopping. Wet fabric conducted heat away from the body at alarming speed. Prisoners of war learned to dry garments using body heat by wearing damp clothing inside layers rather than exposing it to freezing air. Modern survivalists can apply this by managing activity levels in cold environments. The key is to avoid overheating during movement, ventilate clothing intentionally, and, well, dry damp fabric using your own body heat under insulation. You know, WWII proved that staying dry mattered more than staying bulky. Enclosed microclimates replaced open shelters. Without fuel, enclosed air became valuable. Soldiers created microclimates using blankets, ponchos, tarps, and even rubble walls. The goal was not warmth through heat, but warmth through isolation. Submarine crews in the Kriegsmarine learned this brutally well. In freezing Atlantic waters, they sealed compartments tightly, relying on shared body heat and reduced airflow to maintain survivable temperatures. This principle applies anywhere. Small sealed spaces warm faster and stay warm longer. If heating fails, retreat to the smallest enclosed area, block drafts aggressively, and concentrate heat sources inside it. This is exactly how WWII civilians survived bombed-out winters. Another overlooked method involved posture. Soldiers slept curled, knees drawn toward the torso, minimizing exposed surface area. Hands were tucked between thighs or under armpits to preserve circulation. Frostbite prevention relied on movement rather than heat, with subtle finger and toe flexing used to keep blood flowing without sweating. You can practice this today by understanding that circulation is heat. Cold kills extremities first. Preserving blood flow through posture, compression, and gentle movement is still one of the most effective cold defenses available. Food timing replaced fire-based warmth. WWII survivors understood thermogenesis long before the term became common. Eating before sleep produced internal heat for hours. High-fat and carbohydrate intake was prioritized at night because digestion generated warmth. Prisoners saved food for evening not out of habit, but because it kept them alive through the coldest hours. Today, this remains valid. Eating before sleep in cold conditions can, significantly improve overnight warmth. World War II survival showed that internal heat sources were safer than external ones. Shared suffering produced shared survival. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth is that survival often meant abandoning individual comfort. Shared blankets, shared sleeping spaces, and synchronized routines weren't optional. They were enforced because they worked. Lone sleepers died faster. This lesson still applies. In emergencies, community warmth beats individual solutions every time. If this guide gave you knowledge you didn't already have, subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who takes history and survival seriously, and help preserve the real lessons of World War II. These methods weren't forgotten because they failed. They were forgotten because modern life made us, complacent.